Hello there, lovely folks of YouTube, Ren here. I wanted to talk about this plant. Usually when I do a little informative video on a plant, I try to do it when it's at its peak. This plant is not at its peak. It's a little bit past its peak. It has long since bloomed, but I realize that I'm going to be harvesting this herb soon, and when I do, it's not going to be photogenic again for several years. So I want to make sure to talk about this now before I do that, and that way it also kind of ties into the next video I make, which is where I harvest this herb and show how that is done. This herb is Valerian, Valeriana officinalis. It is a perennial that is native to Europe. Very, very, very long history of its use in herbal medicine. Galen, actually, the Roman physician, wrote about its use for insomnia. So it has been used as a sleep aid for thousands of years. This is a lovely little plant. When it's in bloom, the flower spikes can actually get up to almost 5 feet tall. It's very tall when it's in bloom. The flower spikes tend to not have very much in the leaves, so the leaves mostly stay here at the bottom, and it sends up these long spikes with the flowers up the top. These are actually sort of these little brown stems that you can see here are what used to be of the flower stems, and you can see that they're actually hollow. But the flower is just absolutely gorgeous. I do have a picture of the flower, which I used as the thumbnail for this. That was taken earlier in the year. But tremendously scented flowers. They're actually like one of my favorite flowers to grow in the garden just for the scent. The scent is extremely strong, aromatic, very sweet, spicy scent. It's almost indescribable. There's really nothing else like it. As you can see, it does send up these sort of compound leaves. They're oddly pinnated with alternating leaflets. Lots of little leaflets on it. And the leaves basically just come right out of the ground. There's no real stems to speak of. It's just a leaf coming right out of the ground. The only stems that it makes are the stems when it makes the flowers. So this is a plant that does prefer full to part sun and does tend to prefer moist soil, but it can be grown in just regular soil as well. I don't know if you can see, but I have like the downspout for my house is right over here. So a lot of the plants that grow here, like my elder, which is behind me, and the valerian, these are all plants that like it a little wetter because that's where all the water goes, so they're happy there. This plant will readily self-sow. I have little valerian seedlings that pop up all over the place. I've actually let a few of them go back along the edge of the trellis there, just because when I harvest these plants, I can then replace them with the seedlings that are back there. But as you can imagine, since it readily self-seeds, it's also very easy to grow from seed. And it will also spread a little bit from the little rhizomes. So like what you're seeing here is actually multiple little plantlets around the central plant. So you could theoretically just kind of like, as you harvest it, take off some of those little plantlets and replant those as well. But yeah, pretty readily, easy to grow. I've never had any problems with it whatsoever. It is it takes a little bit of time if you want it to bloom. It usually doesn't actually bloom until it's in its second or third year. So if you're growing it because you want to see the flowers, then you need to leave it alone and not harvest it. But some people will harvest it early if they are willing to sacrifice the flowers. As you know, or you may not know, but anyway, I'm telling you now that the part that we primarily use in valerian is the roots. So all of the preparations that you're seeing, like over-the-counter sleep aids, they're usually valerian root that has been powdered and usually encapsulated. It does have a fairly pungent odor, which is why it's usually sold in capsule form. I've heard people describe it as sort of like either like stinky cheese or you know, sweaty feet, or it can be very strong. I know that my daughter recently bought a tea blend at a little witchy market that we went to, that it was an anxiety tea blend that had valerian root in it, and she opened it up in the car and we were like, okay, let's not open that in the car, you know. But it's interesting because, like, although it has that really kind of funk smell to it, there's still the undertone of the valerian flowers beneath that. So it's a very interesting mix. It's I don't know. Some people find it extremely offensive. I don't think it's that bad personally, but I have weird taste too. So, one thing I do want to say though, cats apparently love the smell of valerian root and will go crazy for it in a similar way to catnip. Now, of course, this depends on your cat and how their brain is wired, but yeah, generally, like, you got to be careful if you bring valerian into the house to make sure the cats don't get into it. So, because they will get into it. So, magically, let's see. Most people put this herb under mercury. I know Culpepper puts it under mercury. Paul Barrel also lists it as a plant under mercury, which makes sense because of its nervine properties, its, you know, ability to kind of soothe the nerves and aid sleep. It makes sense that that would be a mercury quality. But Cunningham lists it as an herb of Venus. Not really sure. Anyway. I personally see it as more of a mercury herb. I know I keep pulling out these stems, but anyway, for me it's more of a mercury herb because, again, of that like soothing and calming quality that it has. Obviously, this is a fantastic herb to use for any kind of sleep magic, aiding sleep. You can put it in teas if you can tolerate it. You can put it into a dream pillow if you can stand the smell. Yeah, so. Personally, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's that bad, but your mileage may vary. So, one other thing a lot of people mention about this plant is its ability as a protective plant, which I can definitely see because to me, this plant has a really big sort of like ability to disrupt negative energy and thought patterns. Kind of just breaks that up, which is one of the reasons why it helps you get to sleep. You know, if your mind is racing and you're thinking about all these awful things, valerian helps to kind of break up that energy and let you get to sleep. And so in that way, you can see it as a protective, and it can also kind of break up other negative energies coming your way. So this would be good for like an uncrossing or a hex breaking plant as well, because of that ability to just neutralize that negativity. It can be used to protect the home, particularly against robbery. One of the folk names for this plant is Vandal's Root, which again is supposed to, you know, repel vandals. So therefore, that's an idea that you can use. You can incorporate that into other protective things around the home. And then finally, this is oftentimes used as a substitute for graveyard dirt. So the powdered valerian root can be used in any recipes that you have, particularly folk magic, hoodoo, root working. You know, if it calls for graveyard dirt or graveyard dust, you can use the powdered valerian root in its place. So, but yeah, I think it's definitely a plant that's worth growing. Very easy to grow. Gorgeously scented flowers. Definitely makes it worthwhile. And I love having it, even though it spreads like a mofo, because then I always have it, you know. So. Anyway, I will be harvesting this herb probably in the next few days. You'll be hopefully seeing a video where I talk about that process, the root harvest, because it is a different process from harvesting my other herbs where I harvest just the tops or the flowers. So anyway, that's all I really have on this one. So as always, like, subscribe, yay, gotta show myself. But yes, I do hope this video finds you well, and I will see you again soon.